52.3 million Americans woke up inside an enhanced risk zone this morning across the eastern U.S. That zone covers 124,244 square miles, spanning 8 eastern states as of the 7 a.m. Central update today. Storm Prediction Center added 3 words overnight that changed the outlook, perhaps a strong tornado ahead today. Meanwhile, 70 miles per hour gusts are lining up along the I-95 corridor from Baltimore to Boston this afternoon. Environment Canada just issued an extreme squall warning covering both shores of Lake Erie for 12 straight hours. 55-knot winds and damaging hail are locked in over eastern Lake Erie and Lake Ontario today. Down south, roughly 30 counties across 3 states just landed under a 4-day heat advisory today. Heat index values will climb between 100 and 105 degrees, stretching all the way through Tuesday evening. Comment your city and state below so we can pin your zone in tonight's live severe coverage. Stick around because Sunday shifts the threat south to 8.6 million people across the Carolinas next tomorrow. So today we walk through every layer of this stacked severe weather setup across the eastern half. First up, the SPC upgrade nobody is talking about and why those 3 fresh words matter now. Then the mechanism driving damaging gusts across a corridor of roughly 40 million people today afternoon. After that, city-by-city timing so you know when your severe window opens later this afternoon exactly. Then Sunday shifts and Northern Plains supercells before we hit the 4-day heat advisory zone below. Yesterday's outlook mentioned a couple of tornadoes that never used the phrase strong tornado once anywhere. This morning's discussion slipped that phrasing into the analysis, and here's exactly why it matters, folks. Meteorologists reserve that phrase only for setups with 200 to 300 ESRH plus backed low-level flow together. Both of those ingredients now line up across southeast Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and southern New York today. On top of that, the slight risk zone expanded from 44.8 million to 47.7 million people overnight, quietly. That outer slight footprint grew by 7,000 square miles overnight to 207,316 square miles across states. That expansion pulled Detroit, Indianapolis, Columbus, Charlotte, and Virginia Beach deeper into the risk zone today. Beyond that slight zone, another 31.3 million people sit in the outer marginal risk polygon today. Add it all up, and 131 million Americans watch the exact same convective outlook this afternoon. That is roughly 40% of the entire continental U.S. population under one severe weather setup today. So let us talk about the mechanism actually driving this whole thing across the eastern half today. Water vapor imagery this morning shows a potent mid-level shortwave punching southeast toward the upper Great Lakes. That shortwave rotates through the base of a larger trough down through the St. Lawrence Valley today. Meanwhile, a 1,004 millibar surface low sits north of Georgian Bay, pulling fronts across the region today. A cold front stretches west-southwest all the way into northern Iowa as we speak this morning across states. And a warm front arches southeast into the mid-Atlantic, 12 states now under moisture flow. That warm front lifts north as the low deepens, shoving toward northern Maine by late evening tonight. As all that happens, the cold front slides southeast across the Great Lakes into the Ohio Valley, south of both boundaries. A moist air mass has upper 60s to lower 70s dew points in place today. Early storm clusters are already popping near the warm front from lower Great Lakes east into Pennsylvania. Widespread cloud cover this morning is keeping storm vigor limited across parts of central Pennsylvania early. But as clouds clear and the warm sector advances, MLCAP climbs from 1,000 up to 3,000 joules per kilogram quickly. That fuel turns a marginal severe day into a full-blown all-hazards outbreak by peak heating this afternoon. A belt of 30 to 45 knot westerly flow at 700 millibars runs from Virginia into the northeast. That mid-level jet organizes clusters into multi-cell bands over a 500-mile corridor today. Some of those cells absolutely become supercellular this afternoon across the warm sector zones eastward across states. When SPC uses the phrase all hazards severe risk, that means wind, hail, and tornado all in play. Effective shear values climb into the 35 to 45 knot range across the corridor by peak heating. Now, the wind threat is where this setup has the biggest footprint by far today across states. Widespread damaging gusts of 50 to 60 miles per hour are expected across the whole enhanced risk zone this afternoon. Locally stronger gusts of 55 to 70 miles per hour are possible paralleling the I-95 corridor later today. That 70 miles per hour corridor runs from the Chesapeake Bay all the way up into southern New England tonight. Baltimore, Wilmington, Philadelphia, Newark, New York City, Bridgeport, Hartford, Providence, all in the wind bullseye. Roughly 40 million people sit inside a corridor of 70 miles per hour potential gust by this afternoon today. SPC probabilistic maps show 60% damaging wind probabilities painted along that same I-95 corridor. 60% damaging wind risk within 25 miles of your location is not a normal Saturday afternoon. A few tornadoes are possible from linear and cellular structures across 5 states today afternoon. Low-level hodograph enlargement plus moist low levels is exactly what supports a strong tornado spin-up. That is why SPC quietly added the strong tornado phrase to the discussion overnight without much fanfare. Peak tornado window lines up between 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. across the Mid-Atlantic corridor this afternoon. Farther west, veered flow ahead of the cold front promotes bands of cells and line segments today. Southern Great Lakes into the Ohio Valley catches wind damage as the primary hazard from those bands today. Localized hail up to half-dollar size and a couple of tornadoes may tag along with intense cells today. Ohio, western Pennsylvania, and northwest West Virginia catch the leading edge between noon and 4 p.m. Eastern. That timing overlaps with peak instability of 3,000 joules per kilogram ML Cape across the eastern Great Lakes region today. Now let us pivot to something unusual that showed up on the marine forecast maps this morning early. Environment Canada issued an extreme squall warning covering both shores of Lake Erie for 12 hours today. That warning includes eastern Lake Erie, western Lake Erie, Lake St. Clair, and both shores of Lake Ontario. Window runs 10 a.m. until 10 p.m. local time. A full 12-hour marine chaos block. Wind gusts up to 55 knots translate to 63 miles per hour on land, plus frequent lightning and damaging hail. Anybody with a boat on Lake Erie or Lake Ontario needs to get to shore immediately today, folks. Buffalo, Cleveland, Toledo, Erie, Rochester, 5 lake cities, all inside the marine warning zone today. Kingston, Ontario, Hamilton, and Toronto are also in the strike zone for the strongest cells today, too. If you have plans to be on the water at any point today, please cancel and reschedule now. Lake Erie is 388 miles long, and every mile is under some level of severe threat today. Coast Guard radio and weather radio stations are broadcasting continuous alerts across the Great Lakes region today. 55-knot squalls generate 8 to 12-foot waves in shallow lakes like Erie, so respect the water. If you live in a lakefront town, expect flying debris and blown-out signage into the late evening. Buffalo saw a similar squall in July 2016 that produced 65 miles per hour gust and 40,000 outages. So this is not an unprecedented event, but it is a serious one worth taking action on today. Cleveland. Your window opens early, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern, with gusts approaching 60 miles per hour. Pittsburgh. Expect a 2-round event with cells refiring between 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. local Eastern time. Buffalo and Rochester. You catch the leading edge between noon and 5 p.m. with hail to golf ball size. Baltimore and Washington, D.C. Your severe window locks in between 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. this afternoon. Philadelphia, expect the strongest push between 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. as the cold front sweeps through. New York City Metro. Your window opens between 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. as the boundary crosses today. Newark, Trenton, and Wilmington sit in the highest 70 miles per hour gust corridor for late afternoon today. Long Island. Expect an arrival between 6 p.m. and midnight local time tonight as things push east. Bridgeport, Hartford, and Providence catch the tail end between 7 p.m. and 1 a.m. overnight tonight. Boston, you are on the marginal risk edge, but late evening gusts to 50 miles per hour are still possible. Detroit, you are in the slight risk with a severe window from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Indianapolis, your storms roll through between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. with damaging wind as the primary threat. Columbus, Ohio, you sit right on the boundary between the enhanced risk and slight risk zones today. Charlotte, North Carolina, you get an evening severe window between 5 p.m. and 10 p.m. tonight local time. Virginia Beach, you catch the tail end of the Mid-Atlantic action after 8 p.m. this evening tonight. Louisville and Lexington are marginal, but keep radar handy through the evening hours today, folks, please. Grand Rapids, you are also marginal with a low-end wind threat into the evening hours today. Chicago, you are north of the main action, but late-day pop-up cells could touch 55 miles per hour gusts. Milwaukee, you sit inside a green marginal risk zone with potential pop-up storms after 7 p.m. tonight. Now let us pivot to something completely different happening simultaneously across another part of the country today. Heat index values between 100 and 105 degrees are expected across southern Illinois and western Kentucky today. That advisory runs from noon Saturday all the way to 7 p.m. Tuesday evening straight through consecutively. Higher humidity on Tuesday could push the heat index near 110 degrees across the same 3 states. That is 103 straight hours of dangerous heat for a huge chunk of the mid-Mississippi Valley region. Cape Girardeau, Paducah, Marion, Carbondale, and Sikeston are the biggest cities under the advisory today. Roughly 1.2 million people sit inside the heat advisory zone across those 30 counties today across states. Hot temperatures and high humidity like that cause heat illnesses quickly, especially for older adults today. Drink plenty of fluids, stay in air-conditioned rooms, and check on relatives and neighbors, please, today. 90% of heat-related deaths happen indoors in homes without adequate air conditioning across the U.S. Never leave kids or pets in a parked car. Interiors hit 130 degrees within 15 minutes. Now think about how that heat overlaps with severe storms firing tonight and tomorrow evening across states. That combination creates a compound weather setup. Emergency managers rarely see this early in July, folks. Today, severe storms plus dangerous heat plus a Great Lakes marine squall. 3 overlapping crises today across states. And that is before we roll into Sunday and see what the SMPC has cooking for tomorrow's forecast. Speaking of which, quick pause here for something important before we dive into the Day 2 outlook. Comment your city and state below so we can pin your zone in the community tab tonight. If you know somebody in Cleveland, Philadelphia, Norfolk, or Paducah today, please share this video with them. If you are new here, hit subscribe so tomorrow's Day 2 update lands in your feed early. All right, back to the forecast because Sunday is not letting up on the eastern United States at all. Roughly 8.6 million people live inside that yellow slight risk polygon from Charlotte to Norfolk tomorrow afternoon. Raleigh, Greensboro, and Virginia Beach all sit inside that Sunday severe corridor tomorrow afternoon into evening. Winston-Salem, Richmond, Knoxville, Chattanooga, and Columbia are all in the outer marginal zone tomorrow afternoon. That is another 15.4 million people watching skies for a second round tomorrow afternoon into evening across. That mechanism shifts for Sunday, and threats look genuinely different from Saturday's setup today, folks. An upper trough over the eastern U.S. refuses to move out for another 24 solid hours ahead tomorrow. At the surface, a cold front slides south across Virginia toward the North Carolina border tomorrow afternoon. South of the front, dew points hold in the 70s, and strong heating fuels moderate instability tomorrow. Deep layer flow drops off on Sunday, with effective shear only around 20 to 25 knots total. But steep low-level lapse rates, plus PWAT values above 2 inches, keep things genuinely dangerous tomorrow afternoon. Storms will pose a real risk for wet microbursts across the Carolina corridor tomorrow afternoon into evening. Wet microbursts mean walls of wind slamming down under heavy rain shafts with almost no warning at all. Greater wind risk evolves closer to the cold front where storms cluster together on Sunday afternoon tomorrow. Charlotte, your Sunday window opens between 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. with wet microburst as primary threat. Raleigh, expect a 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. window for your severe storm risk tomorrow afternoon into evening. Norfolk and Virginia Beach. You get coastal Carolina action running from 4 p.m. into the evening tomorrow. Richmond, you sit just north of the slight, but inside the marginal footprint tomorrow afternoon into evening. Knoxville and Chattanooga. Your western edge storms could organize with microburst potential Sunday evening tomorrow ahead. Now, shift eyes west. 3 more states have their own Sunday severe story brewing tomorrow. A compact upper low over Alberta ejects southeast into the prairies and northern plains tomorrow morning early. As it moves, a belt of strong west-northwest flow overspreads Montana and the Dakotas on Sunday afternoon. A surface cold front sags southeast through eastern Montana during the afternoon hours Sunday afternoon into evening. It slides into the Dakotas during the evening and overnight hours by early Monday morning ahead tomorrow. Steep mid-level lapse rates support 1,000 to 2,000 joules per kilogram of MLCKP on Sunday afternoon tomorrow. Effective shear runs 40-plus knots, which is plenty for organized supercells tomorrow afternoon out west evening. Initial convection may start cellular, posing a real risk for isolated large hail tomorrow evening across states. Isolated hail up to baseball size is possible if the strongest cells sustain themselves through peak heating. And if coverage gets high enough, a Boeing cluster covers 200 miles on Sunday northern plains. Southern and eastern Montana into the western Dakotas is the main Sunday severe corridor out west tomorrow. Billings, Miles City, Bismarck, and Dickinson are all watching for late afternoon supercells tomorrow evening across. Overnight storms push east into northern Minnesota, 2 more states in play by dawn Monday. Duluth. Keep an eye on the western horizon after dark Sunday for that overnight storm cluster tomorrow. Fargo and Grand Forks watch for late Sunday overnight storm arrival from the west by dawn Monday. Rapid City and the Black Hills could catch the leading edge before sunset Sunday around 7 p.m. Mountain. All right, that is a lot to absorb. So let us pull it into the big picture recap. Saturday, massive enhanced risk from Cleveland to New York with 52.3 million people in play today. Across. Sunday threat shifts south to Carolinas, covering 8.6 million with wet microburst as the primary danger tomorrow. Sunday out west, 1,000 to 2,000 joules per kilogram. MLCAPE fuels northern plains hail and a bowing storm cluster tomorrow. Plus a 4-day heat advisory covering roughly 30 counties across 3 states through Tuesday evening ahead. And an extreme squall warning covering both shores of Lake Erie for 12 hours today straight through. That is 4 separate weather stories stacked together across a huge chunk of the country today, folks. Now here is a quick engagement question before we roll into the closing recap for you all today. Which region do you want a deeper dive on for tomorrow morning's update video, please, folks? Tomorrow. Northeast severe recap, Carolina Sunday timing, Northern Plains supercell setup, or the 4-day heat advisory. Also, comment your city and state so we can pin your zone on the community tab tonight. If you know somebody living in the target zones today, please share this video with them fast. A heads up from you might be the alert that gets them to their safe spot in time. Weather radios are cheap insurance for anybody in the enhanced risk zone today across the entire region. Charge your devices, know your safe spot, and keep an eye on watches through the day today. Some watches could tag particularly dangerous situation language, so read them carefully today, please, folks. PDS watches mean the environment is off the charts primed for the specific threat listed at that time. If you see PDS on your phone alert, take it seriously and move to a safe spot fast. Emergency managers across the affected corridor pre-staged resources heading into today's setup ahead of schedule. Red Cross teams in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey move supplies into staging positions overnight quietly. That should tell you how confident the professionals are in this specific severe weather setup today, folks. Now, one more note before we recap, because rainfall totals are going to be extreme in some spots. Some places in the mid-Atlantic could pick up 2 to 4 inches of rain by tonight in bursts. That is flash flood territory in urban zones where storm drains cannot keep pace fast enough today. Do not drive through flooded roads because 6 inches of water can carry a small car away. Turn around, do not drown. That old saying still holds true every single summer season, folks. All right, remember those numbers I opened this video with at the very top today, folks? 52.3 million Americans inside an enhanced risk zone with a strong tornado tag added overnight. 70 miles per hour gusts loaded along the I-95 corridor from Chesapeake Bay north into southern New England tonight. 55-knot extreme squall covering both shores of Lake Erie for 12 straight hours today. Those 3 numbers, plus a 30-county heat advisory, tell you everything about the coming 24 hours ahead. Now go check on your neighbors, charge your devices, and share this video with somebody nearby today.